Fun times in Cleveland again. Still Cleveland. Come on down to Cleveland town, everyone. Under construction since 1868. See our river that catches on fire. It's so polluted that all our fish have AIDS. We see the sun almost 3 times a year. This guy has at least 2 DUIs. The flats look like a Scooby-Doo ghost town. Don't slow down in East Cleveland or you'll die. Our economy's based on LeBron James. Buy a house for the price of a BC.
All right. Enough of that there. Welcome to another episode of the Tiger Mining Report podcast here at TigersMLReports.com. I'm Rogelio, still alongside Miss Chris and Brandon. You find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your ever listen to podcasts, and over on Twitter or X at TigersMLReport. And we want to say thank you for anybody who donated, who has done anything. Somebody bought a shirt last night, so thank you whoever bought a shirt. And all that money goes back to the website, so please donate. It goes from, by the way, the Cleveland song was a parody song done by 2 Cleveland comedians, I think like a decade ago. And it's one of my favorite parody songs of all time, because then the last part of that song, thank you, Michael. He's in the song, and then the last part of the song says, "At least we're not Detroit." So, anyway, it's still, the song is hilarious. But anywho, I was saying, please consider donating. It does go a long way. It goes back. Everything we do goes back to the website, including our trip tomorrow to West Michigan, the debut of Max Clark and Kevin McGonigle. We'll get to that. But first things first, the big league team is about to win. Well, hopefully Easton Lucas holds his act together.
I think they got it.
I think they got it? Okay. All right. Well,
Easton Lucas is out, though. Andrew Chafin's coming in. It's not going well, but
Lucas is like, I think they're like, hey, look, you know what? If you want to go back up 280 to 75 to Toledo.
Yeah.
There you
it's
go.
still a 6-run lead. I think we're all right. Probably.
Yeah. But still. Yeah, I'm not going to jinx it. I'm not knocking wood. So there you go. But, plenty to get to. The Tigers take care of the Jays, minus Vlad Guerrero Jr., who was just a beast all weekend. But for the most part, the Jays were tamed. And especially, I remember, I think it was Saturday's lineup got panned on Twitter. And then all of a sudden, it just came out and they won. So so it's either way. But, there's McGonigle and Clark to West Michigan. That's going to be a big hoopla. Jim Leyland gets into the Hall of Fame. And it's worth mentioning, we haven't really talked about this too much, but I wanted to talk a little bit about his minor league career in the Tigers system. This guy won, I think, 2 or 3 titles as a manager in the Tiger minor league system. I think he won one with Lakeland and he won one with Evansville, I think in 79-80. I can't remember the year he won one, but he won multiple titles. So this guy was always a good winner and all that, but very good speech as well. Brandon, how tired are you today?
I'm pretty beat. Yeah, this is a rough time of year for sure. I'm still trying to get out and enjoy the summer and do some things. I'm just staggering through the day here at work, and then working at home, doing this, and so kind of dragging. But it was really cool to see Leyland get inducted there. We don't see that too much anymore, where a guy is actually raised up and sort of trained or developed as a manager in the minor leagues and makes it all the way, to the kind of career as a major league manager he had. It's kind of, maybe last of the old breed there, but hilarious speech as usual. The line about, his wife asking his wife if she could have imagined this in her wildest dreams, and her telling him that, you're not in my wildest dreams, Jim. That's a banger from the old guy. The old crooner. So yeah, I mean, it was good to see him. Same guy. Same emotion for the fans, and kind of like all the ways in which the game kind of intertwines with people's lives. And really nice speech. Well earned. I did a radio spot earlier, and we were kind of talking about whether or not just sort of like looking back at Leyland as a manager here and like what his strengths and flaws were. And the strengths were always that it was his team. He was going to run it the way he saw fit. He wasn't going to really bow to Dave Dombrowski if he I was going to play the guys that he gave him the way he thought they should be played, and they were going to let him do it. So we could quibble about bullpen decisions and kind of playing the same rote lineup all the time when other guys were hot. We could talk about Dombrowski not being very good at building like the depth into the roster or the bullpen, but overall the Jim Leyland years were good. Just ended on a sad note, unfortunately. Still love it.
The one thing that I felt like occasionally he would panic in game 2 against Boston in the 2013 ALCS comes to mind, where he just like cycled through a bunch of bullpen arms, and then it ended up with Benoit and the grand slam, and it just wasn't great. But the guy's an absolute beauty. Never took anything from anybody, would give it back to anybody, and just that speech was everything about Leyland. He was funny, he was emotional, him talking about. We always joke about Gene Lamont being his drinking buddy, right? But yeah, it was a really touching moment where he had Gene Lamont stand up and say, this is my best friend, and I spent 60 years or whatever doing this with him, and it was really special to be able to do that, and he was really nice, and and he just a genuine guy. Ended it with a nice hat tip to the fans, and then he probably went out and had a heater.
Yep.
Yeah. Multiple heaters.
And then was found later in a club, with a whiskey, singing some Frank Sinatra or something,
Yeah.
Love it.
That guy, I'm telling you, every time I'm down at the ballpark and he's there, like when he's at Comerica Park, he is sharply dressed and he smells of like he smells of rich mahogany. Seriously, he is a
no. I'm sure I told the story before about when when I talked to him briefly and there at the drink line, and he very casually told me not to drink the flavored water there. Suggested that I get a beer.
That's good. Tigers just wrapped it up finally. Chafin came on and finished it out. So always good to be Cleveland. Yep. Yeah. Chafin's been striking some dudes out again lately. Looks like he's kind of starting to find it again, but it can come and go.
We're in such a weird spot right now. We were talking before the show where it's been a little bit hard for me to pay attention to the minors because the Tigers are winning so much and they're so much fun because they're doing a lot of the winning with the young guys.
Yeah.
And we just they dug this hole for themselves.
Would you say a core player, a young core player, there, Chris?
Sure, you can call it a core. There's a couple layers to this. It's like the center of an onion. But they dug such a hole that we've been in this kind of like trade mindset for months now, and like everything's coming together right now, and it's like, man, Chafin could be a very nice trade chip. Flaherty, of course, Kelly, all this nonsense about Scoopel, like all these guys, you could really trade some guys, but it's like, do we want to trade any of these guys right now? Like, I guess you kind of have to. You can't lose yourself, use your long-term plans for a hot streak, but it's awfully hard not to just ride the wave and keep having fun.
We're going to come back to reality though, with the rest of this week in the rotation, unfortunately, because that's where it ends. Yeah. Like, if Olsen hadn't got injured, I could kind of see sticking this thing out, but unfortunately that's probably the dagger.
Yeah. I was just going to say they're 12-5 in the month of July. And I put in the Scooble piece. I did a Jack Flaherty. Well, yeah,
Jack Flaherty.
Okay, I don't know why. Anyway, the Flaherty piece I did, I put a caveat in there. They don't have to necessarily trade him because, and Brandon and I think talked about this. I think offline, or we were just talking about the pitching depth. Yeah, we were talking about this yesterday on our Patreon. On Patreon, by the way, if you want to learn more about Lockhart Jr. and as a possibility as a call up, because he is scheduled to start tomorrow for the Mud Hens, and who knows who could be the case, or we all want Jackson Jobe. I mean, we all said it yesterday. very, very easily, because the rest of the rotation right now is in trouble. I mean, it's just, you have Wilmer Flores is out on the IL. I just started with him because people think about names to bring up. Brett Hurdler, as you said, Brandon, what was the exact words? He got spanked yesterday. Is that what it was?
I can't remember. Paddled. Along those lines. Yeah.
He's been getting regularly spanked for the last month and a half or so. Yeah.
I mean, his peripherals still kind of look like, the reason I brought him up is sort of like maybe the first option before he got wrecked the other day, is that, he does get ground balls. He is still striking out a decent amount of dudes, and he doesn't give up so many home runs. Like, he seems like the kind of dude that with a little bit of federization, Rogers Kelly behind the plate, and a little better, or bigger park or better outfield behind him, might be able to survive, but yeah, I mean, I think right now I'm voting Lockhart tomorrow for sure. I mean, we kind of got there last night too, but it's just because, I mean, the splitter is generating a ton of whiffs. They can work with that.
Yeah.
And that's, the options aren't great. So I really think he's probably the best one. And he's the one who, there's no like timetable. There's no development curve. He's 26 now. It's not like you're rushing him. So, it's probably time to give him a look.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point about the point in general that the pitching has been depleted so much that it's tough to really even envision a scenario where they keep winning like this. Although, I mean, they're winning with offense right now. Riley Green didn't do anything today, and they still scored 8 runs.
Yeah.
I was looking at on our other show, we do our inside the numbers thing, and it's, I don't know, maybe a month ago, 6 weeks ago, I did one about the number of months since 2018 that the Tigers have had a WRC plus above 100, and it was 4. One of them was in August of 2020, which doesn't count. And then it was 2 months in 2021 where it was 107 and 110. And then last September where it was 102. Tonight, or this month, July, before tonight, when they scored 8 runs, it was 127.
Oh, yeah.
So they're having the best offensive month in the last 6-7 years. Now, there's still 8 games left this month. They could completely fall flat and it comes back down. But I don't know. It's you want to believe this offense is for real. It's hard to believe that everybody's contributing right now is going to keep hitting like this. But I don't know. It's fun to ride the wave, I guess, while we can.
I do feel, I mean, there's some things that, I think you can kind of bank on. I mean, Keith has come on and, is pretty much settled in as a sort of, baby middle of the order hitter who should keep getting better. Malloy is hitting for power and doing a really nice job kind of playing part-time. That's been cool to see because he was one I think we were all a little skeptical about how he would handle major league pitching when they started throwing him a ton of breaking stuff and off speed. He's handled it pretty well so far. And then, I mean, Wenzel's, kind of went through his struggles too, and he's come back and is basically just sitting there as an average hitter, contributing a lot. And some of the guys, like Canna, obviously, was really struggling in the last 2 months, and he's finally caught fire a little bit. Jake Rogers has caught fire a little bit, and there we are. It's a hot streak, and it's probably not going to stay this hot. And eventually, that pitching is going to catch up to him. But yeah, I mean, they might be able to. It's not impossible. They could just roll for another week with the bats hot, and get themselves into a position where maybe there's a little bit more urgency to call up Jobe. Or if you're trading Flaherty, making sure you get some kind of a modest journeyman 5th starter type that you think you could use in the deal, along with whatever the main prospect is in that. So we'll see. The team has definitely gotten a lot more watchable, though. This is actually fun. This is a legit 500 team where you need a couple pieces and suddenly you're a legit division contender. So yeah, they seem to have finally gotten to that point, which is good to see.
And especially because, I mean, I think we've talked about this numerous times. Is Cleveland serious? Is Cleveland legitimate or not? Yeah. And the answer is no. I mean, we're looking at right now is Seth Lugo. He's one of the best pitchers in the American League. He pitches for Kansas City. I actually said that with a straight face because this is what's going on. We're living in a world where Seth Lugo has got really good numbers. He's pitching for the Kansas City Royals. And we don't have a Cleveland pitcher among that. And so you have to – there's something to consider with this trade deadline too. Kansas City's going to add. I mean, if Kansas City adds another player, they could be right in there too. Minnesota just had Carlos Correa go down. Yep. And I think – who else did I send you Chris? There was another guy. Thanks to Stan, by the way, who sent that over.
I think Julian came back up and they activated Royce Lewis. Is that right?
Yeah.
I mean, the Minnesota has been on fire for most of July as well. They're one of the 2 offenses that are better than Detroit, along with Oakland, of course. Yeah, I don't know. It's one of the annoying things about this year is that this division has proven to be much tougher than any of us expected. If the Tigers were in the AL West right now, they'd be like 3 games out of first place.
Yeah.
And that's with the Mariners having an epic midseason collapse and the Astros going on a heater. It's still, it's just kind of misfortune there. But no, I mean, like YouTube user here in the chat said, wild card teams are 10 games over 500. Do we really think this team is going to end up 10 games over 500? No. I mean, I think it's like Brandon said, it's a 500 team, but it's like when you're playing like this, how do you? It's got to be tough to look your players in the eye and say, "Yep, we're selling." It's you want to. I understand there's a balancing act, and it's a GM and a president's job to make the smart decisions, even if they're unpopular. But it's just, I don't know. For me, it's tough.
Well, and you're also, I mean, you have to assume that they went in, if they're planning on trading Flaherty, you would hope that there was at least a conversation. Like, is there any interest in you signing a 3-year deal, $60 million? Do you want to stay, or are you dead set on testing free agency? Same thing with Carson Kelly. I mean, I wrote about that last night because the Tigers are about to decide like the future of their catching position for the next 2 years, because they're either going to trade Kelly and then it's Dingler and Rogers, and there's not much, that's kind of it. You're just going to go with that. I mean, you could maybe trade Rogers, you could maybe trade Dingler in a deal and decide to sign Kelly at the end of the year or sign him to an extension. But it's a tricky decision, and it's a crucial decision. Like, it's freaking crucial, and it's not getting talked about a lot. And whoever you trade is probably not going to bring a whole lot back. I don't know. Maybe there's an argument for just keeping everyone until the end of the year and just seeing how it goes too. But that just gives you leverage. If someone doesn't really want to give you anything of value for Kelly, fine. You might as well just hang on to him and ride with it, and then decide that at the end of the year you can call Dingler up and work one of those guys through first base in September or something. But yeah, I mean, there's some crucial decisions coming up. And if, I know I keep saying this, but if they had won more damn games when they were healthy and other teams weren't, we wouldn't be in this freaking situation, and they would be like an 85, 86 potential team. And, they just didn't get it done then. It doesn't look like Carpenter's imminently coming back at all. We don't hear anything about Mize coming back imminently. He's not on a rehab assignment. He's been out for a couple weeks now with a hamstring. So, yeah, I mean, the next 3 to 4 weeks are probably going to be pretty rough unless, they put the call in and bring up the big dog and really just try to shove everyone's face in here. We've got the AL Central, like basically the next 10 games. You could start Jobe against the Twins and start Jobe against the Royals if you wanted to. But I don't really expect that to happen either. No, I do expect him to get called up to Toledo, though. I expect him to be pitching in Toledo Thursday, but we'll see how it goes.
It needs to happen soon. We talked about it before, and you guys, mentioned it, I'm sure, during the Call 'em Up series. But it's getting absurd now, right? Yeah. Like double-A hitters literally can't hit him.
It's tiresome. I know it's tiresome to watch, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm resigned to the fact that they will probably cash in the chips that they can. But I agree with you, and I think I mentioned before, like this core that we talked about earlier feels a lot stronger if Flaherty and Kelly are part of it for the next 3 years or something like that. You go, all right, like there's a lot here. But yeah, I mean, to your point, I was thinking about this earlier. So say they do trade Kelly and they bring Dingler up. Who's the backup catcher at that point if somebody gets hurt? It's Anthony Bimboom or Steven Scott.
Yeah,
Alfonso. I mean, it's even.
I don't think. Yeah, I don't think they bring up Alfonso. So yeah, it's. You would think that if they trade somebody, they're probably getting more catching depth. But I don't know if you want to do that. Like, you don't want to just turn down the best possible deal because you need a catcher in Double-A or Triple-A. But
right. But if there's an opportunity to get Samuel Basallo for Flaherty, maybe take him up on that. But then again, he's not close to ready either.
So or Dalton Rushing from the Dodgers too, because I mean, Rushing also is a possibility. His numbers are pretty good in Tulsa in his first full season in Double-A. I put him in my Flaherty piece because I thought it made more sense, and I thought he was probably the guy that probably was part of the deal last year with Erod, and then they mysteriously got like the whole thing went down. So I mean, we'll never know, but I honestly, like, it's the Dodgers are. So you got right now, you got Glasnow coming back, you have Kershaw coming back, but then you release Jordan Montgomery,
Eagle Man, Paxton.
Paxton. So I think with the Dodgers, I think the Dodgers are going to make a move. I know the Reds are going to give up. I mean, and like the Orioles, all of a sudden, John Morosi was mentioning, well, Frankie Montas is available. Ooh, it's not going to like.
That's
Congratulations, you just bought yourself a first round exit.
Yeah.
You know, like
Whoa.
it's whoa.
How
that was
did you
really
do that?
cool.
That's spectacular.
I did not know he was going to do that.
For our listeners, Raj accidentally somehow put fireworks behind him. It was terrific.
Yeah, I don't know how he will do it again, but anyway,
Yeah.
So I'm still stunned by that. But no, it's even the teams that they're waving the white flag right now are also teams that Baltimore can easily go, well, screw. I mean, if this whole Scooble thing happens or whatever, or did not happen, I mean, they can go a cheaper route. But either way, I think that Dalton Rushing, get back to Dalton Rushing, the more I watched him, the more I think he would be a good compliment too, because the Tigers, even you look, even the way they drafted or just even development right now, as Chris was reminding me, it's outside of what low A. I mean, even when we got somebody, Raj's Jubilee from X-Men. Damn it. That's gonna be good there. That's their depth right now below double A is scarce, very scarce.
Yeah, I mean they have bodies, but they've been doing this thing where they seem to just target catchers as undrafted free agents. They'll just add a couple every year, and like they just kind of filter through the bottom of the system. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know if we mentioned Josue Briseño, but he's not back from injury yet, and it was a knee injury, so I don't know if he's going to be catching anymore this year, if at all, ever again. Yeah. Enrique Jimenez is an interesting young catcher, but you're talking rookie ball. So yeah, I mean, Rushing, again, we've talked about it a bunch. Left-handed hitting catcher, also plays a little bit of first base, would be an ideal platoon partner for whomever else you have in there. It's just a matter of, would the Dodgers give him up for a Flaherty? And I don't know, like one of the things I went on a radio show earlier today in Grand Rapids, and one of the things I said is you don't always get the proper value for your players. Like one of the reasons I don't think the Tigers will ever get their price met for Scooble is that there aren't enough potential buyers. Mm-hmm. It's like the Orioles and maybe the Dodgers and Yankees, but they don't really have what the Tigers want or need. People talked before, like the Red Sox could theoretically do it, but it doesn't seem like they're in the place to do it. Mm-hmm. The Phillies could do it, but I don't think the Tigers would go after like 4 really young players for Scooble. Yeah. So when there's not that many people competing, you're not going to get the price you want. Whereas with Flaherty, there could be like a dozen teams after him, honestly, from San Diego to Houston to New York to Baltimore. So they might be able to get a top 50 to 75 prospect for him, and Rushing kind of fits that mold. So
you guys both on radio stations and everything, and
this is the one in Grand Rapids.
Were you on the Huge show?
No, I was on the one with that Jerry did.
I'll be on that. I'll be actually on that next week. Yeah.
So there you go. It's nothing. It was nice. It was nice to be on there, and but yeah, I mean that's basically the point. Is that more competition means a better return, and that's why sometimes you get more for a reliever than you would think you would. Yeah. The Tigers got Reese Olson and Sawyer Gibson-Long for expiring relievers, and Joey Wentz for that matter.
Yeah. Yeah, and it just comes down to you might have 12 teams offering you a guy who's ranked, 60th to 115th on MLB Pipeline's list or whoever's list you like, and you can take your pick. And then it's just on the Tigers to pick the right one. So, it's a good situation there, and you also don't have to trade Flaherty if they don't, they don't give you what you want, because you can qualify and offer him at the end of the year. So they're in a better situation. The Eduardo Rodriguez thing, I still feel like was pretty shambolic by the front office and not a good look in their first season. But those deals are trickier when you have a veteran who has team control and no trade clauses and all that crap. It does get more complicated. So things are pretty clean right now, set up for them to do it kind of whatever they want.
And as time goes on, and we talked about this, it was Eduardo Rodriguez's right to do that, right? But he's now had this is the 3rd or 4th strange thing to happen in his career. Like this year, he hasn't pitched, doesn't seem anywhere close to pitching for the Diamondbacks. It's like, there's some weird stuff with that Eduardo Rodriguez. I don't want to, downplay that at all. He had a right to turn it down, and they should have had a better deal. But
we're better free of him, I would say. Yes.
Yeah. There's something going on there.
Yeah, he doesn't really seem to want to pitch.
I was just going to say,
speculate. Yeah,
I was just going to say the biggest vibe I had is he's got his money, and I'm not trying to downplay that he's not a competitor or anything, but it seems very, very convenient at this point, and it's just like I don't want to be a dick about it, but it's just like it. I don't know.
It's an ongoing. It's an ongoing problem.
And that's me, like just throwing stuff at the wall. Like I don't know, but one of the things Jed was posting earlier about like why there was rumors that the Tigers had scouts in Norfolk scouting Baltimore players, which of course they do. They have scouts everywhere. Yeah. Not everywhere, but their scouts are out doing their job.
There's a scout in my basement right now. I mean,
it's July. It's July, especially.
And Jed was like, why do they even need to do that? And like, they have all the data they could ever possibly need. They can pull up the video whenever they want. But I think there's still a lot of value in makeup digs, right? Figuring out if these guys, and it's not just, we joked about it before, like, it's not just being like a bad person, right. As long as you like baseball and you're not a bad teammate, that's good makeup, right? And so, but there's a chance that Erod might be one of those guys who's very good at baseball, but doesn't necessarily live and die for baseball. And I understand that it's a lot of work to play professional baseball. It's very hard, and you have to be super dedicated, and not everybody can be. But I don't know. I think that's why.
But we've all seen guys who were talented or as talented as other guys around them, but just pretty clearly didn't look as into it. Looked distracted. That can be one game. You can fool yourself that way too. It's sort of like you can't judge enough by makeup to like raise a player's value. It can only hurt them sort of in a way. If you're really seeing like, this guy doesn't, he sits alone on the bench. He's not, he's not chirping with people. And, players who know how to play the game understand that, there's a certain way you should look as a teammate, and be upbeat and all that kind of stuff. And so you can eye wash that, in reverse as well. But yeah, when you see a guy who's consistently doesn't look super into the game, that's always going to stand out. And you can't see that on minor league TV. So,
yeah, just watching the Jobe start that Chris posted on our YouTube channel. It was one of the most commented things we've posted in a while too. It was just getting people who are just like, what is he doing here? Like, just come on. I mean, there was Brandon and I were watching it during the bonus content yesterday. And there's a couple, I forgot the player from Akron, or was it, I remember, Binghamton rather, who he was literally swinging out of his helmet. His helmet kept falling off. Like every at bat was just like, he couldn't he was just like, he literally had like a table, like a end of a table with him or something like that. But as far as like trade packages go and everything too, the reason was, I want to explain this. People are like, why are you just certain players like not first round guy, or you're not going to get an MLB caliber player back in return? Why not? I don't understand why you wouldn't get something like rushing back or something along those lines. Where else are you going to go? So you're just going to sit there and Double-A the rest of the season? Why? I don't understand why. Like some of the commentary, and I'm only saying this because I feel like when you put these trade packages together, the constant comment is, well, it's not worth the value. I mean, or the lottery ticket or the other guy you throw in there. Why would they want somebody like that? Because I mean, and a guy in a case of like Chris Campos or something like that for the Dodgers example, the Tigers have been able to identify players that they like. They're highly athletic and able to do something with them. And they're obviously some of the guys that might be on the cusp of the major leagues. I know that the Astros are putting the Cuban outfielder out there in Round Rock, but he's putting up some ridiculous numbers in Round Rock. It doesn't matter. But anyway, I don't know. I'm going to ask you guys, gentlemen, what is the ideal trade piece to write then?
No. I mean, I just think I don't even think of that as like criticism about like a trade piece. That's just natural fan pessimism. Like, oh, they can't get him. He won't be as good here. I mean, I don't know if the average fan has really paid any attention to the differences in the way Scott Harris and, Ryan Garco, the AJ Hinch effect, all that compared to the Avila years. I mean, it just looks like, people are referencing stuff that happened in like 2018, 2019, 2017. Like all the, I have seen people say like, oh, trading never works out for the Tigers. Look at what they got for Justin Verlander. And it's like, this is completely irrelevant to the situation. Completely different front office, completely different situation. A big contract for a player who was over 35 at the time. Like it just doesn't have any. The things aren't related. They're just not in any way related. There are plenty of teams who are going to want Jack Flaherty. There are plenty of teams who, note to Chris Ilitch, really want to win. Like they're trying to win every year. And some of those teams just have more money to spend. They have more revenue coming in. Okay, but But other teams still try. The Tigers can try to convince you that this is all about like, the cost per win championship, but that's not how a lot of teams still think about it. They are actually trying to win a World Series, or at least give themselves as many chances as possible. It's interesting to think about, though, and here's the thought experiment: is would you rather have whatever you're going to get for these guys in trade, or would you rather have Flaherty and Kelly next year, and maybe you can't sign like the big bat? Maybe you just have to take like Paul DeJong and pair him with Zach McKinstry at shortstop, and maybe get like a prospect that can kind of play first base. The way the offense is trending right now, it starts to feel like if you had Carpenter in there, maybe you don't need as much, but I also don't want to like, get riding high too much right now and feeling like, oh, well, we're just going to rake now. Riley and Colt are monsters. And, there's going to be ups and downs with that. They're going to get pitched differently and all that kind of stuff is going to happen to them. But, I think there's a decent argument that if you have Skubal, Flaherty, Olsen, Jobe, Mize in a rotation, I will pay you good money to come to every game. I just want to see that you're going to win plenty of games. You don't need a top 10 offense to win with that rotation. But then again, you could sign Jack Flaherty for 3-4 years, and then he gets hurt next year. Somebody else gets hurt. Now you didn't bolster your offense, and now you're cooked. So you kind of have to make the deals when they're there, unless you really think you can win this year. And I think the Tigers probably will end up trading Flaherty and probably Kelly both. Maybe a reliever, maybe Foley, maybe Chafin.
Could the Tigers actually trade him? The Tigers actually trade him? Bob Nightingale wants to know.
The Tigers actually trade him?
I can't complain about that because I've been half-assedly like tweeting on social media some days when I'm not really paying attention, and I look back and I'm like, what did you just say, you idiot? If you're not focused, don't do it. Don't tweet anything.
That's the same thing. I'll misspell something, or like today, for example, the draft tracker, I just literally updated it, and then Randall signs. I'm like, son of a bitch.
Yeah, I have my iPhone screen has been broken for a couple months, and so when I try to tweet things, sometimes it's hard to see if I've made a typo or not. And I was like, I don't know, before day 3 of the draft, I think I was tweeting out like, my projections for the bonus pool were, and I made like 3 typos, and I just gave up. I'm like, nope, we're just deleting this. Who cares? Nobody cares. So I can, but Bob Nightingale does that all the time. I don't know. John Heyman was the one with Arson Judge, right?
Right.
Yeah, but.
This is Nightingale's job.
Yeah.
This is his part-time work, bro.
Yeah, I mean, just to get to that, like, there's absolutely no reason they can't sign Flaherty and a big bat. Like we know their payroll isn't much of anything, so they could do that. But yeah, I mean, they may have constraints that we don't know about. But yeah, I don't know. It feels like they still need at least one good right-handed hitter, right?
Yep.
Like they've got some really promising young left-handed hitters, and Winslow is a switch hitter, and Malloy is showing some signs, but they still need somebody. They need what Torkelson was supposed to be. That's what they need.
Yep.
And I don't know. I'd like to be able to go get that in the offseason.
Maybe in the aggregate somehow, but to quote Billy V.
You know what? I would like to think that I think you could, if you're a good team, if you're a good GM, this is what you do. You look at the market and you look at that second tier and go, okay, who would want to come and play for a winner? And that's what you do to get a right-handed bat. And that's what you like. If the Tigers did that, you could go get a second-tier bat that maybe perhaps can give you that power you need. I mean, without sacrificing the bank. Because I mean, if they're quote unquote going to spend, or I mean, maybe provide, who knows? Maybe they might have an extension that works with somebody out there. We don't know. Maybe a Riley Green extension. Who knows? But my point is if you look at the second tier of guys out there too. I mean, like as much as it would be nice to have like somebody like Hyesung Kim would be cool, but I mean he's a kind of a star type, but that I'd love to have a bat like him. And
that's another way to go about it is to like fill the shortstop position with a legit player, and then you don't need a banger necessarily. You just need
Willie Adames
guy. Yeah. Willie Adames is a little scary because he has that profile like Javi, where I mean, it's not the same kind of a swing or anything. Not to say he's Javi Baez levels of discipline, but he doesn't walk, strikes out a fair amount, hits for a lot of power, and plays good defense. But he is kind of at that age where you start to wonder. Like, I wonder about them all now. After Tim Anderson and Javi both. Now I'm looking at Bo Bichette skeptically, even though he's 26. Like same kind of aggressive free swinging hitter. Like, is this dude just going to collapse in a couple of years? I know he's having a bad year, but I think that kind of has more to do with injury and the Blue Jays just kind of not really gelling somehow. There's just the vibe is off there somehow.
Yeah, sometimes things go wrong.
Yeah, so we should just buy low there. Give us Bichette.
Yeah, I mean, like there's a ton of possibility. Even am I thinking of like as a Gleyber Torres?
Now he's an interesting. I mean, he's a second baseman, so the Tigers are just overflowing with those. But he is an interesting kind of down year, contract year guy. If you look at everything about his like Statcast page was much better last year. So I don't know what's going on there. He's never been the guy. What was it? 2019. He was another one of those 2019 guys, I think, who just had a monster year. It's never been that again. But he would be an interesting bat. I don't know if he has the arm to play third.
Yeah, not really. I mean, he might be okay. But yeah, I don't really think so. But then again, we could also look at Alex Bregman, who will be a free agent too. And Alex Bregman is sort of like, what we hope Kevin McGonigle grows up to be. And I think Alex Bregman can probably handle shortstop still and be solid. Not above average, but he's just such a quick twitchy fella and has such great actions. I think he can make up for having kind of an average arm in the same way that he does at third base. So, but they're not going to pay that, right? He's probably going to get 100.
Or maybe they could get a discount by promising him he could play shortstop.
Maybe so. And he gets to hang out with Hinchy again.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't we get some fancy accountant who knows how to defer all this contract money?
Or even a guy like Tiscar Hernandez who played with Hinch in 2016, 2017. And he's gonna be a free agent.
Yeah, that's true. That'd be a right-handed bat to put a DH in left field, I guess.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so let me we got some super chats to catch up on because Sean's insisting on making sure I read these, and to tell the truth, I have not had a chance. I've been trying to focus on this. So this is from Sean. Shout out to Scott. Can we move Baez for another contract? That last one was the Louisiana purchase, my guy. No way.
That ball is gone.
Yeah.
Such a all-time.
That's a good one. And then Old BK with the $4.99. Thank you so much. Looking forward to seeing the Clark McGonigle show in West Michigan. Another good show, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Exquisite.
We hear a lot of that from Dan Hasey over the next couple days.
Exquisite.
So,
honestly, I mean, I can't think. The only two contracts that are even remotely as bad as Javi Baez or worse that I can think of are Anthony Rendon and Trevor Story. And
Chris Davis.
Chris Davis, yeah, I was going to say Chris
Davis.
Davis.
He's not playing right now, is he?
Oh, right.
I mean, like, gotcha. I just mean like right now, like you could trade for. I mean, yeah, we've seen some bad contracts in Detroit.
Go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think even Hinch, I think the telling tale tonight, or telling sign that even the Tigers are like, okay, was tonight when he went for that double and he had no business going for that double, and he goes and tries to get challenged. You're like, your swim move did nothing.
You're out, bro.
Yeah, you're out. You're out by a country mile, as good old Rod Allen would say. What are you doing? Seriously. Yeah. Well, that was just so stupid. Honestly, it was just dumb. And I can't, I mean, I know the numbers, try not to bash the guy, but I've had enough. I mean, honestly, it's like, I can't defend that. It's like, come on, man.
No. And I mean, I honestly just think he's, physically done.
Yeah.
It just seems like, last year, the whole theme was that, the back was just really, really bad. And he was going to dedicate the whole off season to doing all this work. They said he did all that work. He seemed healthy, the first month or two of the season, didn't do anything. And, now it's the back again. And, and he's needing time off. And when the back becomes an ongoing problem for a player who's thrown himself around the way Javi has and played that style of a super aggressive, hard on the body baseball for all these years. Yeah. I mean, I just, there's just nothing left. There was nothing left in the first place, but now I really think like physically he's just toast now. I don't, it's probably not like a medical retirement situation. That'd be nice to dream about. Where the Tigers just get paid off by the insurance, or Javi does, and goes away. But yeah, they can't do this again next year. And if they do, fans should really, really let them have it. Like, I can understand this year they needed one more year just to see if like maybe he can turn it around. He's not turning it around. It's freaking over. Move on. End of story. Everyone knows this. Everyone in the chat is like, duh. And yeah, I mean, what are we looking at? They won't even play him over Zach McKinstry now. Like, what are you doing? Why is he here? What's happening? Will the Dodgers take his contract?
Well, yeah, somebody mentioned that in the chat, and somebody mentioned that in the Discord earlier. And it's if that happens, we talked about that earlier. Like, if the Tigers take pennies in the dollar for Skubal to get rid of Javi Baez's contract, then that will be the 100% indictment of Chris Ilitch, right?
Oh my God!
Like,
yeah,
I cannot imagine them doing that. If they do that, then you're losing every fan.
Yeah.
I don't know who's still going to stick around.
I could see that being part of the Flaherty deal somehow if it's the Dodgers. But yeah, oh my God, please don't. Oh my God.
Yeah, no,
I hadn't even thought about that, Chris. Don't curse it.
There's no way they do that. They're gonna. Yeah, I mean, my brother was texting me tonight about how much he's irritated by Javi Baez and like swinging at everything, and I was like, he's actually striking out less as a Tiger than he did through his whole career. There are even some people. I mean, Evan Petzold did a whole thing like maybe he needs to swing more.
Yeah.
And I just don't think it matters. And they're going to have to eat 3 years of his contract probably next spring, which is going to go down as one of the worst contracts in MLB history because nobody's ever eaten 3 years. But they're going to have to. They can't. You can't. He's got a 25 WRC plus. You can't put him out there. So I don't know.
I don't know if he could hit AA pitching right now. I really don't. It's awful. It's awful to watch.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know if you guys have ever seen the Righteous Gemstones, but every time I think of Javi Baez, and somebody put it in the chat, I think of Baby Billy.
Uncle Baby Billy.
Yeah, Uncle Baby. My back. My back. And that's how I think of Javi Baez. And I wish I had the sound drop, but I don't have it right now.
My neck.
My neck. My back. Anyways, let's just think of that. But it's time. I mean, it honestly, like, I can't. It's one of those things too where when Zach McKinstry, like, people want him to admit sometimes even I want a Zach McKinstry, but then you can see the value of him in the field or in the outfield. But I mean, if we're getting Tom Berger or is it Berger?
Tom Berenger.
Yeah, Tom Berenger. Andrew Scott with the reference with the old 70s Tigers reference here. If we're wishing for that back, but it's just it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing to hope on. I don't like Zach McKinstry on the team very much either, but if Zach McKinstry was playing his role as a dude who starts once a week, he'd be great. That's fine. Yeah. He's a perfect player kind of for that, but yeah, this is not working.
So what's working for the Tigers is the draft tracker. So the latest update for that is something that it was funny. Somebody, as far as like just activity goes, here's how it looks right now for the Tigers. Let me see if I can zoom that in better because I can't really see it too well, to be honest. See here. Oh, that looks terrible. Oh, there we go. All right, that looks a lot better. That's just not us on the screen. But so the Tigers right now signed their first round draft pick today, and Bryce Rayner, he got just a little over slot. Owen Hall, second rounder, under slot. And I think Michael I got to update the Massey. He got under slot too. And so did, I believe, Josh Randall too, right, Chris?
A little bit. Yep.
Okay. And then go ahead.
I don't think we have Ethan Scheffelbein yet or Zach Swanson yet, although there was the report that Swanson was getting third round money, which is anywhere from $750,000 to $1.5 million. And I don't think we have Jackson Strong's number yet, or RJ Sales actually.
Yeah.
But is Strong signed?
I think they said he was signed, but I haven't seen his number yet. I don't know. The Tigers put it in like a little tiny game notes today, but
I saw I was looking at the game notes earlier for those who I updated with, but the number that was stated, and somebody was talking about how Ethan Sloan needs a new agent. The guy made a choice, but he was also coming back from injury, folks.
Yeah, he decided to go to pro ball. I mean, that's all that is. He knew the deal.
And yeah, none of these guys are ever shocked by that. They know what they're doing. They're not getting, screwed over. He's on the market. He's worth, $28,000 or whatever you got. And if he didn't sign that, he might not have gotten drafted at all.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just the calculus they have to go with there.
Yeah. He normally would be a guy that you took like in the 18th or 19th round probably, and just tried to get him for whatever minimal amount possible. So that was just a move to get part of that slot down. Because I keep forgetting the rules because it's complicated, and forgetting that it doesn't matter if you don't sign Siebert, you don't get that money. It's like that slot's just gone. But
yeah, Tigers Turmoil just put in our Discord chat that Jim Callis just reported that second rounder Caleb Bonemer, the kid from Okemos, got $3 million, which is above slot because slot was 2.1, and he got $3 million.
Yeah, that's
good
pretty
for
good.
him.
Yeah. Someone asked earlier, why does this happen? And that's why. It's to get those top prep guys to sign. Basically, somebody else has to pay, and it's usually middle level prep guys and the college guys who don't have much leverage. So.
Yeah, and I don't know, there's a world where this all ends, where and it would also involve the ability to trade draft picks. I think where
they're talking about that, right?
In the next CBA, basically put hard slotting on every single pick, and then you can trade draft picks all throughout the first 10 rounds. It's also possible that they would keep this kind of bonus pool system and allow trading for picks, which could result in some kind of ridiculous shenanigans at some point, with some team having $35 million in bonus pool money. But I don't know. That would be more fun, I think, but it would be harder for fans to keep track of. And it's already confusing where, the McGonigle last year, he would go 36 overall.
Yeah.
But he was ranked in the 20 to 25 range on MLB Pipeline and Baseball America. And people are like, why is this happening? And it's just the weird way that teams kind of try to mitigate risk by spending first round money in the second round for some reason.
Yeah, people get super into it with football, but it's just a lot longer draft. And if I'd like to see picks being able to trade it, but not to the point where you could accumulate just crap tons of bonus money and buy the entire, buy give me the first 10 guys or something. Yeah, I mean it would be funny to see someone try, but I mean. It seems like if they hard cap those slots and did that, that would probably be entertaining for those of us who care about the draft in the first place. And if you don't really want to get super deep into the draft, there's really no point in paying any attention to the draft anyway.
Yeah.
It's it's for dorks and us. Dorks. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, it's I talked about it before. We do all this research for the draft, try to get to know all these names, and then all the players just go boop right out of my brain. And the ones that the Tigers don't draft, and then 2 years later we see them in West Michigan or Erie, and I go, I remember that guy. Yep. And then some of them don't do anything. I really like that guy, and he hits 200 in low A and disappears forever.
Even some of the Tigers guys disappear to me. I'm going to disappear for a second. I'll be
right.
All right.
So while Brandon disappears, Chris, we want to explain to people, just to the folks at home, exactly how how slot works.
Sure. So, baseball does it is they assign a specific dollar value to every one of the draft picks between the first pick overall and the final pick of the 10th round. There's a specific dollar value, and then the team has a bonus pool that is the collective value of every one of their picks in the top 10 rounds. And they started this system, I want to say, in 2012. And they deliberately, when they first did it, the first pick had tons more money than anybody else. And so I think it was the Astros were the first team to kind of have fun with it. And they cut an underslot deal with Carlos Correa and then used some of the bonus money they saved to sign, was it Lance McCullers Jr., I think, and maybe Rio Ruiz or somebody else. But yeah, so teams do that all the time now. The Tigers have done it a couple of years in a row where they take some players that they spend more money on and then cut deals with other players. They Josh Randall took less money probably because other teams probably viewed him as a 4th or 5th round pick. So the Tigers took him in the 3rd round, gave him what would have been a good bonus for a 4th rounder, but is less than the 3rd round slot. And then they save that money and use it on the other players who might cost more to sign. So I don't know. It's needlessly complicated. And then, that's without getting into the whole overage taxes. You can go up to 5% over your bonus pool and just pay a tax on what you've spent over that. And if you go over that, then you start losing draft picks, and nobody's ever done that. But there are a lot of different little nuances to it.
All right. Yeah, because for some people out there, there's a lot of confusion sometimes too when you see the amount of, like, for example, we mentioned the RJ Salas, or the kid out of
Wellington?
Yeah.
Sloan,
yeah.
The reliever from Regis.
Regis.
Yeah, I mean, well, one of the things, we were talking about earlier about, like, the ideal kind of trade piece to write. And one of the things I like to do is really, it's easy enough to go to, like, Pipeline or Baseball America or Fangraphs or any of these places and look at their rankings of prospects and say, all right, well, take 5, 10, and 14. But I think it's much more helpful to look at who's actually performing and who actually the scouting reports are getting better on.
Yeah.
People can't update their rankings every single day, but players are getting better every single day, and they're making big leaps. And one of the things that I've noticed, it's seemingly with the Tigers drafting these last couple of years, is they really seem to follow guys right up until draft day. And maybe that's me just ascribing something that's not really there, but they've taken a number of guys from the MLB Draft League. That's where Strong came from. That's where Sloan came from. That's where they got Jenk Diaz last year. Their 11th rounder, the kid from Utah, was pitching in the Cape Cod League this year, like pitching up until the draft. And you even hear it, like Bryce Rayner was a big spring improver. And so was the 12th round pick they took out of Chicago, out of Downers Grove. What's his name? Jude Warwick.
Yeah, the kid that they were scouting for a while too, right? I mean, they were talking, yeah.
So they just seem to be staying on players for longer, and I don't know. I think we'll see if it pays dividends down the road, but I think that's something that I enjoy that they're doing.
By the way, Ben Verlander, yeah, everybody will be pissed if they traded Tarek Skubal. Sit down.
You're not involved here. Sit down, bro.
Ben, you haven't said anything about Skubal all year. Knock it off. Go. I'm sorry. Ben Verlander is fantastic.
That was a truthful statement.
That was very truthful. That's the truth is radiating from me. It's just, come on. I hate when people state the obvious. Like, come on.
Well, we could take a whole bunch of people to the task for continuing to act like Skubal is, like, actively just getting shopped everywhere and is about to be traded.
I can't wait till the trade deadline's over. Out of all the trade deadlines that we've experienced, yeah, thank you, Tyler. Tyler even said in the chat, Ben Verlander is a fake Skubal fan. Yeah. Anyway, all right,
get out of here, Ben.
Yeah, get out of here. So let's move on. Let's talk about, of course, McGonigle and Clark ending their Lakeland career on a high note yesterday, Chris. It was some.
Yeah, we've talked a bunch. We thought they were going up after the first half of the season. We thought they were going up after the Futures game. Instead, they had to come and play 2 more games in Lakeland, which, some of it maybe makes sense. They're waiting to, it was a 3-game series. Maybe they wanted them to go down there and gather their stuff. I don't know. But yeah, that was I don't think that we'll see if we can find out tomorrow if there's media availability and we could talk to them. But I don't know if they were told, like, after the game. They probably were, honestly, but I imagine they had a good idea that they were probably heading north no matter what. And I mean, a couple monster games, really. I mean, Clark went 3 for 4 with a double and a home run and a steal, and McGonigle went 2 for 4 with a home run and a steal. And you just got to see both of their games on display one last time in Lakeland.
Yeah. And maybe that was the point. Yeah. Sort of welcome Max back after the Futures game, let them have a little last hurrah, gather their stuff, say goodbye to the team and bounce together, rather than, like, Clark leaving from the Futures game and McGonigle, like, just kind of, I don't know, going to hang out in GR for a day or two, getting ready.
No, it is entirely possible that they wanted them to drive to West Michigan together. Like,
yeah.
We were talking about this in the
boys. This is I-75. We'll get used to
it. I didn't even consider that the other day, but somebody, I don't know which podcast I heard it on. It may have been Pipeline's podcast or whatever, but they were saying that the Marlins promoted Thomas White and who's their other pitcher that they drafted last year? They drafted 2 high school pitchers with their first 2 picks last year. and they sent both of them up to Beloit at the same time. They went from Jupiter, Florida to Beloit, Wisconsin. They drove for 19 hours. And I was like, why? Do you really want, like, that's like $10 million in bonus money driving. But, you know, I guess that there's a little bonding experience in that. I don't know. And they have to get their stuff, I guess, from Florida to Wisconsin or Michigan. So,
I mean, if they were on it, it'd be great content. You know, I mean, Max is on this kind of thing, you know, like little road trip, you know, montage of them, like, you know, eating at, you know, wherever, stopping at Piggly Wiggly and going here and there. And
it wouldn't shock me if Max Clark will end up putting out like a slick 6-minute video about their road trip heading up north. He's pretty savvy like that. So I don't know. But it's fun. It's something that the Tigers fans have been asking for months now. Every time we post a highlight of them, it's like, why are they still in Lakeland?
Come on, call them up already.
And we haven't seen the corresponding moves in West Michigan or Erie yet, or the Gulf Coast or Florida Complex League for that matter. So there will be more. And it may involve, unfortunately, a couple of people losing their jobs, but that's just the nature of the business. Yeah,
and they drafted so many pitchers. It's like, you know they're not going to start any of these guys, so it's not like they're going to force anybody out. So it will be interesting to see, kind of how they maneuver that.
So I mean, if we look at here's the road trip here. So you can take different routes. So they could either take 75 and cut over. So let's see here. There's the 18 hours. Wow, 18 hours and 45-minute route, over 1,200 miles. They could do this and cut over 65.
Got to bust over to the Blue Ridge Parkway down there. You know.
Yeah, there we go. And then they're of course they should hit a couple buckies on the way because why not. Sure. Or you could be insane and go this route, take the 20-hour route. But here's how the possible retrap. So.
Well, I don't know. It's exciting. We'll see. I don't picture much of a learning curve for McGonigle at all. Honestly, I think he's one of those dudes who that swing's going to work at every level. He's going to fall out of bed and hit 300. I'm sure there's some nuances and they'll figure out his weaknesses and stuff like that, but I'm not too worried about him. I think Max Clark, and I don't think this is a negative per se, but I think Max Clark has to fight and find his swing more. Yeah. And he works at it and he makes adjustments and stuff like that. And I think that's going to be the way he is for a while. And
maybe he'll be the Colt Keith addition because he's been just on an absolute heater the last 6 weeks or so. So maybe he's the guy that struggles at first, and then like once he figures it out, it's all over for the pitching.
Yeah, absolutely. He's made some real adjustments this year, and it's been one of the more exciting things to see because they're early on. I had some concerns about his ability to hit velocity, and that I'm not really worried about that anymore. And he's turning on the ball more, and it's just a lot of good stuff from Max Clark.
Yeah, they both look really good. Yeah, I know we've been super hype on McGonigle, but you still have to factor in the fact that Max is going to stick in center field. McGonigle's probably not a shortstop. I guess we'll find out. But and Max has more power potential in my view.
So a couple updates too is somebody mentioned in the chat, but also I was just going to get to Isaac Pacheco started his rehab assignment to the FSL Tigers. So that's an interesting development too because the kind of like the effect is when he would come back, where would he be if Clark and McGonigle were there? So it kind of leaves because obviously he's playing third, but still, right now, is it Gold playing third right now, or who's been playing third for West Michigan?
Luis Santana, I think, and it's entirely possible that Luis Santana gets let go, even though he's been a solid player. He's kind of an organizational player there. They got him, I think, from the Tampa system last year.
He might well be the best player on that team.
Yes. Luke Gold, I think, has been primarily playing left field and first base.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting because, Peyton Graham is still hurt. And
Jarvis is second and short?
He's been playing shortstop mostly.
Okay, yeah.
And Max Anderson has been playing second. I think it may be time to move back Max Anderson to first base. He plays second base like a first baseman, if I'm, not to be too mean about it. It'll be interesting to see because the Whitecaps started off the second half of the season pretty well, and then they went to Wisconsin and got absolutely demolished. That Wisconsin team is just like a juggernaut of interesting young prospects who are that shortstop.
Yeah, I was going to say they have a really good infielder. Yeah,
that dude hit like 18 doubles against them in 5 games. It was absurd. But I think they have it's kind of a fun team now. Funny thing, you get a couple top 50 prospects and you have a fun team. So
Yeah.
I think this beyond anything else, Clark and McGonigle are going to help that team a lot.
Yeah, they need them for sure. Yep.
And also, I think will help them at the box. I mean, not that West Michigan's doing some really good crowds anyway, but it's just going to be a madhouse there in the next couple of days or so. Too much so that we actually have we have a photographer that we use every once in a while, and he was trying to stake claim Tuesday through Friday, and it's like, no, we're actually going to be out there. So thanks, but no thanks.
Well, yeah, and then I think the Whitecaps did post a video that they finally opened up the new home locker room.
Yeah.
I think the home team had been using the old visitor locker room, and the visitors were in like storage sheds out in the parking lot.
Oh yeah,
not storage sheds, but like movie set trailers. So maybe they just wanted to wait until they had the nice first class digs for Clark and McGonigle.
Remember that, Chris? The last time we went to West Michigan, I think it was against Wisconsin. Remember, Wisconsin was there, and they're stretching the parking lot in those containers. Remember that? Like we were pulling up, and we're like, "What the hell's going on?" And they're like, "There's Wisconsin doing like drills in the parking lot."
Yeah, it was a little bit. It was like low rent, but that's what you're going to see from the A's in Sacramento. I think it's similar things.
Yeah,
guaranteed.
Yeah, they gave Max Anderson 1.5. Yes, Mark. Yes,
they liked his hitting ability theoretically. It's everything is up the middle and away. He has power. He doesn't get to it very often. I mean, it's not a great prospect profile. I don't know. He's another guy that might need a complete swing change, or it might not matter. He's not a great athlete. So, yeah, you can't get every pick right. They did okay with Clark and McGonigle and Jaden Ham, I think.
Yeah.
Yep. And some others. There's I think that draft is going to come out very well, regardless of Max Anderson's fate.
Yeah.
So. But yeah,
Right.
it's kind of a drag that he hasn't, kind of progressed by this point. You at least thought, by mid-season he'd be doing damage and looking ready to move up, and he kind of doesn't look like he's doing much of anything.
And one of the bummers, and you can do this with every draft, is I think the pick right after Max Anderson was Luke Keeschel from Arizona, who is like a top 100 prospect now. So just one of those things, and I don't know if he signed for anything more than Anderson did.
So let's move quickly through the system real quick. So Toledo will start a series against Louisville starting tomorrow. Madden is scheduled to be the starter. I thought it was Lockhart's. Maybe I did the math wrong on that, but Madden will get the start. And overall, for Toledo this weekend, again, we'll be bringing back the stat sheets next week because, I mean, they only play 3 games, but they got their asses handed to them by St. Paul all weekend. It was there was outside of Friday's game, the rest of the game Saturday was 11-3 loss, and the Mud Hens, the faithful, the Mud Hen 9, if you will, they're getting a bullpen start from Sean Gunther. Didn't really get much, and there's a bunch of new pitchers in there. There's Valerios or
Villalobos or whatever.
Yeah, that guy. And
Matt Seelinger and stuff.
Yes. The Maggie's in there too. Like, I mean, obviously he was a positional player, but I forgot about Drew Mag, the signing there. Meanwhile, Jace Young had another quiet multi-hit game, and they moved Andrew Navigato in the order a little bit. They moved him the second in the order.
He's been in second. He's been hitting leadoff. They've been moving around. It's Toledo's been pretty ravaged by everything too, right? These injuries haven't been limited to Detroit. Valade went back because they brought up Bly Madras, who was one of their more consistent bats there in Toledo. It's tough out there, but and they were decent. I think the last time we looked, and I think they've gone like 2-8 since the last time we looked at them. It's been rough. They're, I think, in 10th place in the IL right now in the second half. So not the season I was expecting.
And it kind of goes to what we were talking about earlier as far as trying to call up a starter, because the Saints just shelled everyone they saw. I mean, Lockhart on Friday wasn't too bad, 3 earned runs and 4 1/3. But then, bullpen day, and then Herder gives up 9 runs in 3 2/3 on Sunday. And, the offense didn't do much. Torkelson did nothing. Not much to look at there right now.
Yeah,
Young's kind of settling in a little bit, but he hasn't really kind of hit his stride fully since getting back yet either.
Yeah, former SeaWolf farmhand Wilson Bernard just going ape
Windburner.
shit all weekend against the Mud Hens. So we did get a question in from Brady Lewis, and I like this question. Good evening, guys. Big week coming up for the organization, mostly West Michigan. 2 questions. What do you think of Jace's swing, and what do you think of Campos will come to Erie? He was there Saturday and Sunday, brutal series. And yes, I mean, like, it's to the point where like I want to go see Toledo. But I just have not had the opportunity to. And it's funny, I saw John, one of those official scoreboard guys, at the Tigers game a couple weeks ago, and his sentiments were the same. So as far as Campos goes, I thought it was almost a guarantee, but I was looking at some of his stats. He's kind of trade off a little bit. He's doing that thing he does where May and June he hits really good, and then July just kind of tails off a little bit. I would like to think I think Campos, if he was able to have been called up by now, he would have been there by now. I don't think he is. Could be wrong. Oh, the mustache, by the way, from Torkelson did not help his cause.
No.
Yeah, that was bad.
Mustaches rarely do.
Yeah.
No, I like, Campos, like you said, I think you nailed it pretty well, Raj, that Campos, he just kind of is doing the same thing he did last year. It's moderately better. He's got a little bit more power. I think he's walking about the same amount. He's shown more speed. He's definitely improved on defense. He's a viable outfield defender now after last year looking kind of rough. Yeah. They could send him up to Erie, but given what we've seen from this front office and their relative conservatism when promoting guys, it wouldn't shock me if he stays in West Michigan for the rest of the year, and maybe starts in Erie next year. Maybe he's back in West Michigan. He's still only 21. It's not the end of the world if he does. But yeah, I mean, it's the same issue with him, really. Like, hits the ball hard, not enough in the air to take advantage of it. But we'll see.
There's time with him at least. Yeah.
And with Jace Young, I mean, to be honest, I've never liked the way his swing looked aesthetically. I've never liked it, but it's, and even when we first saw him, I was like, oh, he's getting beat by velocity constantly. He's got a hole under his hands for sliders, but and then he just keeps hitting, and he's the opposite of Campos. Like, he starts off slow, and then in July and August he goes nuts. So I don't know. I mean, I don't really know. I thought he had a lot of the same problems that Malloy did, maybe even worse. In zone swing and miss. I think he's a good enough hitter generally to address that, but I don't know. I still think he works best as a trade chip for the Tigers.
Yeah, same. I mean, there's still. I mean, I think I haven't looked at his numbers just recently, but last time I checked, I mean, there's still some trouble with velocity with him as well. Not as much with everything else, but the other comparison with Campos is that Young pulls the ball in the air a ton, and that might be enough. I mean, if you there's plenty of like fairly poor pure hitters in the major leagues who just know how to get their pitch and pull it for home runs. Jake Rogers with a little bit more like contact ability to the opposite field is that type of hitter, and maybe that's what Young will be as well. The problem is that he's still, making a fair amount of errors and mistakes at third base. It's hard to know exactly where to fit him. So I'm not really sure if they're going to be that prime to call him up this, in the next 2 months. I don't know if he's going to get a look or not. Something's going to have to kind of click a little bit further, I think.
Yeah. And I don't know. I'm just looking at Young's numbers since June 1st. He's got a 162 WRC plus, 284, 448, 547, 263 ISO. He's doing it. Yep. It's just, some of the underlying stuff is still a bit iffy. He's got 28 walks to 19 strikeouts in that span. So,
yeah. That's good.
I mean,
and Malloy, we had those questions about, and so far he's largely been able to avoid it by, getting a lot of fastballs and hitting them hard and catching his hangers and doing damage. You still saw tonight, like a couple of, well-located changeups down in the zone. He's still hesitant. Like, am I taking them? And that might be something we see more of as they try to test him. Cause he's doing quite a bit of damage here, but it just shows you like the cat and mouse game with knowing where their weaknesses are and then coming up to the major leagues and doing well, but still knowing that weakness is there and isn't fully being tested yet. So you still have to kind of wait with Malloy a good bit, I'd say.
Yeah. And you touched on it, but Young we've said it a bunch. He's not a viable big league third baseman. I don't know if he ever will be. I know you can get better at third base with reps, but I don't know if he has the quick twitch that you need to step and dive. He's just not built like that. So I don't know.
Yeah. Not explosive, and neither is Keith. Obviously, like the two of them are kind of this pretty similar, really, to me as defenders.
Yeah, I just don't. I see too much stiffness with him at third. I mean, I think you have to be a little more like I don't want to say like jelly-like, but you have to have a really quick first step, and you launch that ball, you got to launch it out like a rocket. Essentially, sometimes we have to make that play, and I just don't see that. And so,
yeah.
But speaking of Erie, by the way, the SeaWolves pulled off a team no-hitter, which again there was some comment like it's not that big of a deal. Jobe didn't go 7 innings. Do you not understand how that works?
No, they don't.
It's not Dwight Gooden pitching 108. What was it? Throwing 120 pitches a game in 1984. It's not like that anymore.
Yeah. They're not ever going to let him throw that many pitches in the minor leagues ever. So
no, it's different than it was 5 years ago when Casey Mize got to throw a no-hitter in his AA debut. They don't care anymore.
Yeah.
And it's not even about necessarily the number of pitches, because I think Jobe was still at like 75 pitches or less.
Yes.
Maybe 72 through 6 innings.
Yeah.
They care more about, and they must have research to back this up, or at least I hope they do. They care more about the up downs, right? Getting up, warming up, and throwing, sitting down for a while and cooling off. And it makes sense to me that would have more of a deleterious effect on your muscles than actually throwing the ball a bunch. Everybody throws the ball a bunch. They throw it all the time.
Right. But I mean, guys warm up with 30 pitches before the game. I mean, if you wanted to just go out on the mound cold and warm up in game, you could maybe look like Justin Verlander out there, but it wouldn't go well.
Yeah. And I don't know, like it's as much as it would be cool for Jackson Jobe to throw a no-hitter, a full complete game no-hitter in AA, it matters so very little. And we see it at the big league level. They don't let Paul Skeens do it. They don't care. Yeah. It's a cool accomplishment, but unless you're, on track for a Maddox, they're not going to let you do it.
Yep.
So I mean,
you got to get through 8 in 100 pitches. There's just no other way or less.
Yeah. I mean, the most impressive thing is that they stopped the 10-game winning streak by the Rumble Ponies on Saturday, and they came out there Sunday. And Brandon and I were talking about a little bit about Carlos Pena, and Brandon brought up a good point that you wish he had a couple more miles per hour in his velocity, because he's been Erie's best pitcher. I mean, he has been out there. Another strong outing from him: 5 innings, 2 hits, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, and Binghamton's no slouch either. And so he's just going out there. Is he a guy who is a potential prospect? I mean, no. I mean, he's kind of an old guy. He's 25 years old. He just started pitching a few years ago. He gets like a late bloomer a little bit, if you will. But he's been out there and just giving Erie solid quality starts.
I mean, I'd love to see it if he could just add a little bit of gas and give him to Fetter and just kind of see what happens with the game planning, because he can execute a really good game plan. He does command everything well. He's got the change up to work at least at that level, and he throws strikes. He doesn't miss down the middle. And I guess as far as not being a prospect, if you just wanted to call him up for a start with the Tigers, it doesn't matter, because if you just ended up letting him go or DFAing him after that, it doesn't matter either. But he's a guy we like, but he's also a guy that kind of is about at the end of the road unless something really, really breaks loose for him in terms of stuff. So
he's
love you though, Carlos. You're fun to he is fun to watch pitch. I like watching him pitch. I liked watching Kenta Maeda pitch until this year as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's more of what you used to see, I guess, in like AAA. You would see more guys like that who are just command and control guys who kept hitters off balance and like old school pitching, right? Right. Yeah. And now they, with the smaller rosters and fewer minor league teams, they want guys who have big league arms, and that means throwing harder with more interesting stuff. And Pena just kind of gets outs. I don't know. We've seen a number of guys who can get outs through AA and then go up to AAA, and it just doesn't work. Like Austin Bergner is another guy who seems to have stuff that gets AA hitters out, but every time he gets to AAA, he just gets teed off on. And I don't know. I don't know. I'm happy.
Lockhart a little bit too so far. So
yeah. And Lockhart took his lumps early on in Toledo, and Pena did in AA too. At first, we're like, it's not going to work, and then he's kind of figured it out. Sometimes you got to give guys a little time to figure it out. But I don't know if it would work at higher levels. Like you said, it'd be fun to see him try, but I'm skeptical.
I'd like to see the second coming of Jamie Moyer, but
you don't see guys like that anymore, really. Like Like Tyler Alexander was a 90-mile-an-hour pitcher with like 7 pitches, and he occasionally would look good, and most of the time he would get rocked.
Yep. Yeah, it takes you got to at least have like Tyler Holton level power. Like Tyler Holton, maybe that's the move that we haven't talked about, is just moving Tyler Holton to the rotation and stretching him out. I don't know. You could do that. Yeah, you could do that as well.
By the way, speaking of good pitching, though, West Michigan shutting out Dayton 2 nights in a row, and before losing on Sunday. But yeah, overall the amount of, I just wanted to talk about, like, we've talked about Jarvis a little bit. He's kind of struggled since we saw him in Lansing come down a little bit, but some of the bullpen arms again. Just the bullpen for West Michigan this year has been pretty good. It's just been a matter of consistency. Jack Anderson's been getting back to what I don't know what he is prospect wise, but overall, if there's one thing about West Michigan that does intrigue me, is the amount of arms that you kind of go, okay, well, how does that play up at a different level? How does that play up? You can see some reinforcements from Erie out of that, especially Sanchez, who had another strong outing. But overall, I don't know what you guys stood out with. I'm still amazed that Zach Hess is still pitching. But I only say that because I just thought that, like, just based off all the things he's been through. Anyway,
yeah.
I don't know. Stood out to you guys at West Michigan.
Well, they almost had a no-hitter the night before Erie did. They had a no-hitter and going into the 7th inning, I think, with Colin Fields for 5+ innings, and then it was interesting. I don't know if Dayton has a particularly scary offense anymore. I think they still have Carlos Jorge, who's a pretty good prospect, but I mean, I think it's a good point that we got another Jaden Ham start. He wasn't as efficient as we'd like from him. He seems to be kind of hitting some bumps here in the second half of the season, which is understandable. And but yeah, that bullpen still has a bunch of really interesting arms that not necessarily always know where the ball's going, but when they throw it where it's supposed to go, they get a lot of strikeouts.
Yeah. I mean, there's anybody I like Sanchez a lot. I don't really love anybody else, but there's some talented arms for sure. And we'll see if one of those guys can break out. I'm kind of curious to see who from like Lakeland has just had the arms for me this year, as far as like, okay, these are the guys I'm actually interested in seeing. So we'll see if any of those guys end up moving up, whether that's, Jake Miller, whoever, Zach Lee, who's a little bit older, Sears, maybe. I don't know. Reyes has looked pretty damn impressive the last couple of times. I wouldn't mind seeing Gabriel Reyes move up.
Stugatz mentioned Marco Jimenez as a underrated. I would agree with that. You want to see a little more strikeouts for that, but overall,
it's just that he's been here so long, it starts to feel stale. But yeah. I mean, he has enough stuff, I think, if he could tighten things up a little bit.
Moving on to the Flying Tigers, we were mentioning, of course, McGonigle and Clark moving away from the Flying Tigers. So what's how's that going to look going forward? I mean, you lose quite a bit of your offense now. Well, I mean, we won't know until they start with the series at Bradenton. Thank you. So overall, though, as far as pitching wise, Chris, is there anything? I mean, what do Flying Tiger fans have to look forward to? There's Brett Callahan. There you go.
Yeah. I mean, you could argue that Callahan deserves to be called up as well. He's an interesting player. Offensively, it might be tough. They may be getting Franier Montilla. He did not play for the FCL Tigers tonight. Yeah. So and he would be the natural replacement for McGonigle, even though he's cooled off a little bit. He did hit his 6th home run of the season the other day. And, he walks, he steals, he plays good defense. He would be an exciting guy to see. Yeah. But, and Brandon mentioned, there's still a bunch of interesting arms down there. Our guy Gabriel Reyes keeps looking really interesting.
Yeah,
he had a really good start the other night.
He did. He seems to enjoy pitching.
It's a lively.
I mean, it's makes you like, okay, like compare him with Paul Wilson, who's in the complex league and struggles in just about every outing, and their fastballs are about the same. Right now, Reyes is actually throwing harder than Wilson. He's throwing a lot more strikes. It's like, so who's the better prospect right now? And it's hard for me to justify Wilson over Reyes, other than he's like a year and a half younger, and he got a bunch of money. Right. But I mean, Reyes is fun, Sears is fun, Minton's fun. We talked about all these guys. They have interesting things about them. And Rainer Castillo, of course.
Yep.
And what's the guy's name? Eaker.
Iker Huizy.
Yeah, Iker
Weezy.
Huizy.
Yeah.
Iker Huizy.
Thomas Bruce.
Thomas
Yeah,
Bruce.
no,
He's a little older. He's got a huge fastball and kind of a changeup and not much else. But they could
yeah,
it's try him. He is older. I don't know.
They call him. I think they call it a split. But man, yeah, he's another guy that just does not throw enough strikes. When he's throwing strikes, it's could be pretty nasty, but not enough strikes.
Yeah,
and it's sort of similar to that one they signed that undrafted free agent who's like 6'10", right?
Oh yeah.
I forgot his name, but they've signed a handful of undrafted free agents.
Was it the kid out of Ball State? I think it is, or
was he Ball State? I don't know. He was just enormous and up to 99.
Yeah.
But it's like that's not enough anymore, which is kind of crazy, right? Like you could have like Bruss. He throws 99. He's got other pitches, but not enough strikes, so you're in low A.
Yep, they'd show you.
So
and
by the way,
that's good. All those low A hitters get to see some 99. Because they won't see lots of it until they're much further along. So hey, he's a good tester. Actually, you should just have him pitch against the FCL kids and get that bat speed up.
Well, yeah, I mean, honestly, I was watching St. Louis, I think last week, and they had a bunch of relievers throwing gas, like 70 or 97 to 100. And it was like, yeah, I mean, it's weird. You get all these huge arms in low A, and then you don't see them again until the big leagues, basically.
Yeah.
You might see one in every other level per series, but you see all these guys who have big arms and can't throw strikes.
Yeah, because it's such a specific thing usually that has to be fixed. And when it's fixed, then they might go from, high A all the way up. You just, because it's a fairly simplified profile and simplified approach. So yeah, you never know. Somebody's got to break out. It has been a little bit of a drag that no one has. I mean, obviously Flores was hurt, Madison got hurt, but nobody else is really. It's like the opportunity is wide open here, boys. Same thing you could say to Manning and some of the other, Madden and Herter. It's like it's right there for you. Montero hasn't exactly seized the reins or anything. Got knocked around pretty good yesterday with some of the same stuff that's typically his problem. Just having an inning or two where he's just wild and
put stuff over the middle.
Yeah. You can look. Yeah, I mean, he gave up 3 mistakes, all to George Springer,
and
all center of the plate.
Yeah.
It was like
hit me.
They all got rocked.
Yeah. By the way, the Sierra Scooble now leads the American League with the 2.34 ERA. The Tigers PR department just put that out.
Do you love him now, Bruce Bochy?
Yeah. There you go. Too late now. You can't take it back. Also, I wanted to forgot to mention this because we gotta plug the Erie SeaWolves here. Jackson Jobe shirts are now on sale. So just want to give that a quick plug. So if you're going to, by the way, he has a Friday. He's pitching against a Pirates prospect.
Harrington.
Yeah, Harrington. That's gonna be a good matchup.
I think he was from Campbell.
Is that another guy from Campbell?
I think so. Yeah. We don't need to go into the previous regime's
mistakes on Campbell.
Yeah, well, just their inability to scout players who aren't at big schools, but whatever.
Yeah.
Hey, you're out in Erie. I hope you never see Jackson Jobe again.
Yep.
Yeah.
We say this all the time. Like we feel for our friends in Erie, but he got to go, man. He's got this is like you said, Brandon. At least Toledo. Come on, let's not be silly here.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of conversations, and I'm sure you guys have too. Like I've been on Reddit, I've been on our site, in the comments and on X, Twitter, or whatever the heck it is. I understand people's like natural reticence when they look at like his innings totals and like, oh well, you've got to make this progression and this, but you just have to watch the pitcher. If you watch the game he threw the other day, there isn't anybody in the Tigers rotation other than Scooble and maybe Flaherty who can pitch like that. So Olsen is close, but Olsen doesn't have that fastball. So, I mean, it's just right there. And, I keep explaining this to people, like hitting is reactive, pitching, you just pitch, you're just pitching. It doesn't, when you go up to another level, it's not like hitters there, like have superpowers. You're still throwing the same stuff that you saw. They're the ones who have to react to it. So at least test them out. It's time to get them up there and get them into some trouble somehow.
So Mark Gurash is saying he's starting Thursday in Cleveland. Book it. Well, you know what, Mark?
I'd love to believe it, but I don't.
Yeah, I love to believe it too, but I also will give some credence to Mark because his podcast.
He does know.
He does know. His podcast partner is the Tigers beat writer, the great Evan. The best, by the way, the best set of. He has the best hair. The business. Evan Petzold.
I could not be more jealous of Evan Petzold.
Yeah. No. Wait, why? Stu Gotts, why were you roasted for suggesting Joe be called up on Reddit? See,
well, no, I've seen all that. I mean, that's where I commented in there. I don't even want to tell my username. You could probably figure it out, but it's just like all these people are like, well, why would you bring him up now? Save him for later. You're going to get him hurt. You're wasting his service time, blah, blah, blah. They all think they can just store him away until they want to use him and he'll be there for you. And fucking doesn't work like that. When he's ready, he's ready. What's he going to do? What's he going to do? Just go down there and just blow these kids away, without paying any attention to what he's doing. It's bad. It's honestly bad for him. It's not just that it's not a challenge and he's not learning anything, but it's bad for you to just, not have any competition. Yeah. It's not good. That's not the way to raise up a pitcher. So
there were a couple things that over at Fangraphs, Dan Saborski did like a mid-season or whatever, halfway point Zips update for prospects, for top 100 prospects, and Jobe's Zips update, which was say what he would do in the big leagues right now. Zips thinks he would have a 4.1 ERA in the big leagues, and that's with a 5 walks per 9, based on some of the funky things we've seen in Double-A, right, where he had like 7 walks in his first 8 innings or something.
Right,
he's mostly throwing nothing but strikes.
And a lot of those we saw. He threw like 7 strikes and gave up a walk a lot of the time. And I just can't help but feeling like a lot of those umps at a certain point are just like, I got to get this kid like right in the zone because these kids can't hit him. This isn't a game. There's no, am I being too nice to him? They can't touch him. And, it just gets worse and worse for him there. So he's just kind of getting screwed over. I mean, I don't know that anyone would have really hit him. I mean, he had a 35 hitter in a row, no hit streak, 6 no hit innings the other day. There were a couple starts in between where he gave up a run or 2 here or there, but it's just, guys are just closing their fucking eyes and swinging.
Exactly. No, but you're right. Exactly that. They're closing their eyes. What else is going to be challenged with? You go to Toledo. You maybe put a start into Toledo. Fine. If they didn't have the injuries that they had, I would say leave them in Toledo. Let them start the rotation next year. But right now, you don't have the following. You don't have Mize. You don't have Flores. You don't have all these guys in front of you are not there.
Yeah,
clear the way.
You've got a healthy Madden and a seemingly healthy Herder, and they're getting bombed basically every week. So it's like, what do you do? The only other thing, and I'll say this, Lynn Henning wrote this in his weekly minor league article, was that the Tigers could theoretically wait until August 15th, the second half of August, and call Jobe up, and he would still retain his rookie eligibility for next year. And they could still get, the compensation pick if he wins Rookie of the Year or wins Cy Young or whatever, which may be a consideration. Yeah. I mean, they're stuck in that spot right now where, like, do they really want to go for that? Like, if they're really going for it now, then Jobe is the best answer. Yeah. But I don't know if they believe in themselves, honestly. So it's
I don't either. Tough thing. But I also think there's a really good argument that calling Jobe up is the right thing for his development too.
Yeah.
He threw 80 innings last year. That includes the Arizona Fall League for all the people who want to be like, I just looked this up. He didn't throw that many innings. 80 innings. He should be able to throw a 115 this year, maybe 110. And that puts him right on track to make like 12, 13 starts of 5 or 6 innings. And you'd have him right in that slot. It's all set up. It's like right there. I mean, I'm on board if they want to, send him to Toledo for 2 starts and, just kind of like test the waters, make sure there isn't something they haven't noticed that some, Eric Haas type can exploit or something. But, I fail to see the point at this point. He's not going to develop until he's against major league pitching at this point, and I don't see much point in wasting much time. If they want to try for the PPI pick, that's fine, but they should probably just sign him to a Keith extension because, planning around like maybe getting an extra comp pick a year and a half from now, it's like.
But you gotta find the value wherever you can get it, right?
I know, and I want them to be smart guys, and I want them to try to extract every bit of all that all that value that they can. But I don't know if that's a consideration really that should be on their minds at all.
Man, the way Vasquez is going, Mama better make some more of that moist cake.
So Joey wants to. This is the last question of the night. That yay or nay on Paxton Claim for a couple starts? Nay. I think he's cooked. I'm sorry, Paxton was still cooked.
I do too, but I think he's cooked as well. But I could see him trying it. He's lost a little bit of velocity, but he still gets outs. He, compared to what we've got at Toledo, he's obviously a better option. So, but I think you could also argue that Lockhart Jr. might be as good and would actually benefit from getting to work with the major league pitching coaches a little bit. So there might be more value in doing that anyway. But if you could claim James Paxton and not have to pay him much and just throw him a couple times and pass him on to the next team that's desperate. That's okay too.
If they did it, I'd be fine with it. But I agree. He did not look like anything special at all against the Tigers the other day. And it's like $3 million left on his deal or something like that. But and generally speaking, if the Dodgers can't fix a guy, I'm skeptical that the Tigers can. Not that I don't doubt that Chris Federer is the best in the business, but the Dodgers has some smart people too. And it's funny you say that when we talk about Lyle Lockhart, who the Dodgers didn't. I don't think the Dodgers honestly bothered to try to fix him.
They tried to send thinking about him.
No. Remember, he was on the Dodgers put him on the development list, and he's like, screw you. I'm out of here. I'm not gonna stick around for this. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, of course, but still, like I remember when we interviewed him last year, it was one of those things where he was just like, he talked to his agent and got out of there. He got in a better situation.
Well, they signed him in the 9th round for $2,500. So that's kind of what they viewed him as. And they probably didn't view him as a guy that was worth, really trying to develop. And then he comes to Detroit and he adds the splitter after he comes to Detroit, which has been a difference maker for him. So
they try to improve everyone, but you're still only going to really have all your analysts diving in. Like, what can we do with pitch shapes with this guy, with the guys that you really like more often than not? The other guys are going to get that treatment, like maybe briefly in the off season as part of creating their plan for the year, but they're not really a focus. So I'm going to go back just so that Mark knows that I said this earlier. We're playing the Central right now. Call Jobe up, try to shove their faces in for a couple weeks and see if you can get somewhere. And then, if Jobe's getting shelled or something, you can send him down, but he's not going to get shelled.
Yeah. On that note, we're going to end the podcast with two players that I wanted to mention real quick that have been recent graduates of the top 30. Well, one of them is going to be a recent graduate of the top 30. J-Hen, Justin Aaron Malloy in the month of July, 289, 400, 579, WRC plus a 179, a 957 OPS with 3 home runs. He's already got 7 home runs. Is that right? I mean, holy shit.
Yeah. It's only been up like a week or a month, I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, he's already he's quickly, Cole Keith's got 10, which now they have Matt Verling and Riley Green among players with 10 or more home runs already. And Malloy's not too far behind already. It's like I had to look at that again, like 7 runs, damn. And
Detroit, he's not playing that much.
Yeah.
So it's pretty wild.
And
I believe Detroit has the most home runs from rookies this season with Perez, Keith, Malloy, and I guess Valade counts. I don't know if he's still a rookie or not.
Players there?
Maybe. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm keep beating that down. I'm sorry. It's just I just keep thinking how people are saying they don't have a core. Speaking of that, Winfield Perez, by the way, just I just want to give him a tip of the cap because here's the thing. Like we've talked about this ever since in the last few years when he started putting the ball in the air more, what he's capable of. But his speed, and then tonight, just his speed caused that extra run to score on that sacrifice fly. He's been in the outfield. He's been a joy to watch. I know sometimes you're just like, whoa, what kind of route he's taking? But there's more times than not he makes a smart play and uses his ability to cut off the ball and where he saves some extra base hit or two. It's the little things you notice about Perez that make you go, all right, this is what this. It, to me, is the biggest part of what the new philosophy under Garco and those right there is an example. Because I believe this more than ever. If you had him under the old regime, he would be a shortstop with maybe making errors right now. It would be another Dawel Lugo. I'm sorry, I really believe that.
Well, I don't even know if he would have got that close. I think he just would have been written off for the lack of power, and nobody would have ever tried to do anything with him.
Yeah.
No, I mean, he's a better offensive player than Dawel Lugo. He has more patience.
And stuff, he's always been, but still, he was a slap hitter. Remember this? I mean, this is a guy who was. I'm sorry.
No, I think we were talking the other day when we went out to that celebrity softball game.
By the way,
charity softball game.
By the way, Chris Brown, 3 for 4 at the plate, or 3 for 3 at the plate.
I mean, 3 for 3. 2 of them were very clear errors. I went 1
for
3.
No, they weren't. There were 2.
I did, and I went full Roberto Campos. I couldn't get that ball off the ground at all.
No, the first one was like, okay, a little bit of an error, but the other 2 were lasers. Come on.
They were all errors. But in any event, what was I going to say? That we were talking on the way home. It's like, what is Perez? And we're like, we wished, he could still play infield because then he'd be getting 600 plate appearances no matter what. But even still, he's like an ideal 4th outfielder at this point where where he's gonna get 500 plate appearances in a year because he's a switch hitter, and he's gonna there's gonna be one of your outfielders who you're gonna sit down because he's a left-handed hitter against a tough lefty, or he's a right-handed hitter against a tough righty, and Perez, boom, he's in there. So I mean, he's a really valuable piece. I don't think he's a starting outfielder, but he's a de facto starting outfielder. And yeah, again, that's another really positive development from this year that we did not see coming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he had the potential, we just didn't see it happening.
Yeah, you kind of thought he'd be more of like 26 man on the bench. Like I definitely thought he could handle that and be useful as a pinch runner and handle the bat. But yeah, you just see all the things he works on. Like, I mean, he laid down a perfect, sack bunt. A couple, I can't remember what game, it was about a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody on the Tigers can do that. Playing in the Rogers Center where you get these big bounces, you can see him thinking his way through. Like, okay, I'm not familiar with this place. This thing might take a big hop over my head. I'm just going to, come up short and not try to like smother it or something. He just is obviously thinking about everything he's doing out there and just soaking it all in, taking in all the coaching. So you can kind of see that all being processed. So very positive. He was a good interview for Benetti and Dickerson, which was nice because so many of the Latin players don't get any interview time. Like you barely know who they are because no one considers it important to speak Spanish for some reason, even though that's a third of your industry. Just saying. So yeah, and to the guy asking where Matt Boyd is, he rehabbed last night for the Guardians in AA Akron, and he struck out 5 dudes and was okay.
I think I saw one of our friends from the the Guardians prospects said he was up to 93, 94. So sounds like old Matt Boyd.
Best of luck, but not with the Guardians.
No, it's as far as Perez goes. Also, he's been making a point to work on his English a lot too. So it props. But I was just glad to see a little bit of a different name out there for that. And I just want to give him some praise because if he's a fourth outfielder best, fine. It was a better outcome than what we thought a couple years ago. So on that note, thank you so much for listening to the Tiger Minor League Report podcast recap. And again, if you like to leave a donation, there's a PayPal link there. Goes back to the website. Again, there's the shirt. You can buy a shirt like I'm wearing right now. Tiger Minor League shirt. And again, same thing. Everything goes back in there. We'll be out at West Michigan tomorrow. What's up, Chris?
I was going to say, come say hi to us in West Michigan. Slip us a Finsky.
Oh, yeah.
Or just say hi. We're fine with just saying hi.
Yeah. Hi.
Why don't I get a shirt?
I ordered a polo? I ordered a shirt.
I don't have any shirt. I'm saying.
I know. I ordered you a polo, though, like a couple months ago. They never came.
Oh, no. I never did get one. No.
Damn it.
All right.
Yeah, I want my merch. Anyway, no, I'm just playing.
I got your merch taken care of. Come Saturday us tomorrow. We'll be out there. And also I probably will be hitting up Toledo this week at some point. There's a chance maybe even Erie. I might go out to the game Friday because that sounds like a pretty Jackson. Yeah. If Jobe is not in Cleveland, as Mark says. So, but until then, we'll talk.
One more thing. Just thanks to everybody in the comments. Like every show, I read through the comments and I'm like, that we got like lots of smart, knowledgeable, funny people in the comments. I'm like, I would hang out with all you guys. So thanks for that.
Yeah, our YouTube channel, our YouTube comment people are some of the best. Honestly, it makes us worthwhile. So until then, we'll talk to you soon.